Imagine you're a teenage boy. You're alone in the woods, it's pitch black, and you are holding a knife. Your mission tonight isn't to hunt a wolf or a bear. Your mission is to creep into a sleeping village and murder an innocent farmer. If you fail, you'll be beaten. If you succeed, you become a man. This wasn't a horror movie. This was the final exam to become a citizen of Sparta. We all know the legend, the 300, the muscles, the speeches about freedom. We think of Sparta as the ultimate hero of Western civilization. But if you went back in time, you wouldn't find a land of heroes. You would find a nightmare. Sparta was a paranoid police state that declared war on its own people every single year. It was a society that banned money, starved its children, and murdered its own workforce just to keep them afraid. The truth is, the 300 weren't fighting for freedom. They were fighting to protect a prison. You are watching Be Explained, and this is Sparta, the prison state. To understand why Sparta was so weird, you have to look at the math. Imagine you live in a house with 8 people. You are the only one with a weapon. You are the only one with rights. And the other 7 people, they are slaves. They hate you. They outnumber you. And every single night, you have to sleep with one eye open because you know they are dreaming of killing you. This was daily life for a Spartan citizen. Centuries before the movie 300, the Spartans conquered their neighbours, the Messenians. But they didn't just tax them, they enslaved the entire population. These people were called Helots. The Helots were fellow Greeks who wanted their freedom back, and there were so many of them. Historians estimate the ratio was 7 Helots to every 1 Spartan. So, if you're a Spartan, you can't get a job. You can't be a farmer or a merchant. Why? Because your entire life must be dedicated to one thing, training to be strong enough to keep those 7 people from snapping your neck. Sparta wasn't a military academy. It was an occupation force trapped in its own city. This explains the famous Spartan training system, the Agoge. Pop culture says this was about turning boys into men. In reality, it was about breaking them psychologically so they would follow orders without thinking. At age 7, a boy was taken from his mother and thrown into a barracks. They were starved on purpose. If they wanted enough food to survive, they had to steal it. And here is the twisted part. If you got caught stealing, you weren't beaten for the theft. You were beaten for getting caught. The lesson wasn't be moral. The lesson was be sneaky. They walked barefoot in winter, slept on reeds, and fought each other for sport. It was institutionalized child abuse designed to strip away individuality. A soldier who thinks for himself is dangerous. A soldier who follows orders blindly will kill a Helot without asking questions. To make sure they stayed hard, the Spartans even ate terrible food. Their signature dish was black broth, pork boiled in pig's blood and vinegar. Visitors from other Greek cities tried it and literally spit it out. One famous visitor joked, "Now I understand why Spartans are so willing to die. It's better than eating this soup." But the darkest part of the system wasn't the soup. It was the graduation exam. Sparta had a secret police force called the Krypteia. This wasn't for catching foreign spies. It was for hunting their own workforce. When a Spartan teenager was ready to become a man, he was sent into the countryside with just a knife. His mission wasn't survival. It was to stalk the Helots. At night he would creep down into the villages and murder any Helot he found walking on the roads. They specifically targeted the strongest and smartest slaves. If a Helot looked like a leader, he disappeared. It was a systematic culling to remove anyone who might start a rebellion. Now, isn't murder a crime against the gods? The Spartans found a legal loophole. Every autumn, the Spartan government officially declared war on the Helots. Yes, the government declared war on its own farmers, This meant the Helots were legally enemies of the state. So when a teenager stabbed a farmer in the dark, it wasn't murder, it was an act of war. It was state-sanctioned terrorism designed to keep the population paralyzed with fear. This paranoia ruined their society, because they were so afraid of the outside world influencing their perfect system. The Spartans banned basically everything. They banned real money. While Athens used silver and gold coins to trade, Sparta used giant, heavy iron bars. Imagine trying to buy a horse, but you need to bring a wheelbarrow full of rusty iron rods to pay for it. It was ridiculous. But that was the point. The government wanted trade to be difficult. If you can't trade, you can't get rich. If you can't get rich, everyone stays equal and nobody gets soft. This made Sparta the most boring place in Greece. No fancy clothes, no foreign food, no philosophy. While Athens was inventing democracy and theatre, Sparta was just sitting there, polishing shields and nervously watching the slaves. They were so afraid of change that they froze their culture in time. In the end, this system ate itself alive. The obsession with purity meant it was hard to remain a citizen. If you couldn't pay your dues, you were kicked out. The population of Spartan citizens plummeted. They didn't have enough men to fill the battle lines. In 371 BC, at the Battle of Leuctra, the Theban army smashed the Spartan line. The myth of invincibility was shattered. The Thebans then marched into Spartan territory and did the one thing the Spartans feared most. They freed the Helots. Overnight, the Spartan economy collapsed. Without their slaves to farm for them, the ultimate warriors were helpless. They were just rich bullies who lost their lunch money. Sparta didn't end with a bang. It ended with a whimper. It faded away until it became a theme park for Roman tourists who came to watch the locals do their weird ancient dances. So the next time you see Gerard Butler kicking someone into a pit, remember the context. Those muscles and that discipline weren't for protecting freedom. They were the uniform of a prison guard. Sparta sacrificed art, beauty and humanity for a sense of security that eventually crumbled anyway. They fought to keep the world out, but in the end, the world moved on without them.
This is Be Explained. If you want history without myths or noise, subscribe, because the past still shapes the present, and here it is explained.